Welcome to the Building Classroom Community Podcast. I'm your host, Andrea Earle, and this is the show where we talk about all aspects of building community among the learners in your classroom so that every student feels welcome, safe, empowered, and heard. This podcast is my passion project, and my goal is to support classroom teachers with practical, actionable strategies in small chunks. My guest today is Jon Corippo, co-author of the EduProtocols Field Guides and founder of the EduProtocols movement. Now, I call it a movement because in my experience, using EduProtocols helps move students from consumers of teacher-directed content to critical and creative investigators. Jon, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, you culture building person, you.
So for those who don't know you and don't know kind of about this EduProtocols movement, can you just share a little bit about what got you started in really creating EduProtocols and working to change the world?
So the super short version is one day in 1999, I had this big stack of papers and I was like, I don't know if I can do this for 30 years. And so now here we are, 27 years later, whatever. And so I took my marketing skills, I took my D1 football coaching skills, and I took my just general joie de vivre, and I folded it all together with the best research. So one of the big trigger moments for me was we've got to give kids feedback faster, or they won't care about the work. Like they'll turn it in, and then it's out of here. I'm gone. I'm done. And that's what we saw in college with us as learners. Like it was, I got a B on the science test, but I'm not a science major. So, ka-cha, it's gone. Um, and so I said, okay, we got to give kids faster feedback. But then the next big moment for me was I went to a 5-day Marzano training, which was really good. It was by McRell. And I really liked it. But driving home on the last day, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to action any of that. I don't know how to take any of that and put it into action. I'll give you a quick example. One of Marzano's top tens is non-linguistic representations. And at that point in my career, I was like, that is cool.
But what do you
So what do you do? One of the other ones is comparing similarities and differences, which, in most cases I would say, oh, we'll write an essay to compare, but that's not really what it meant in terms of the highest level. Or note taking is one, but I don't really think that the best form of note taking is just writing down what I write on the board. So I started this journey of what's the best, what's the best, what's the best, and I learned about Marzano and Fullen and Hattie and all of them. And it turns out that most of what we're doing educationally is not that effective. And we're trying to force things to happen that are just never going to happen. Those of us, the same people that have a teenager who know when you've got a 14-year-old girl, you got to talk to her in a certain way to get her to actually clean her room and not hate you. But we think, oh, well, I'm teaching now, so they have to listen.
Yeah.
They do not.
No.
They might push back, but they don't have to listen. So anyways, went along and did that for a few years. Met Marlena when I was working as the assistant soup up at Mariposa. And then she got moved back to the classroom. And she said, hey, do you have some ideas? Because I haven't taught sixth grade for a few years. And I was like, I got this and I got this and I got this. And she's like, wow, this is really working. Like this is working. So she started making some of her own. And then at one point, she says she said it first, but it's very possible I said it first. But one of us said, we should write a book. And I think what I said was, we should memorialize this because if we get hit by a bus, it's just vapor, right? And she said, I'll write the book. It was somewhere in there. Anyways, so we started writing the book and then we learned a lot. And we've learned a ton in the last 6 years or so. So basically, EduProtocols, for anybody that's like, what is it?
That's what I was going to ask you.
It is basically a pedagogical practice that you can use over and over again with new material. So classically in language arts, we will have a completely different workflow to teach alliteration. And then the next week, a completely different workflow to teach onomatopoeia. And then the next week, a completely different workflow, series of worksheets, projects, whatever it is, for foreshadowing. Well, now look at what the workload is for us. We've got to constantly be developing week after week. And then the other problem is for the kids are constantly not understanding the task. And when kids are not understanding the task, there's two main behaviors we're going to get. One is they shut down and they don't do anything, and the other is they try to distract us with wacky antics. And I don't want either of those. So that's the super short version. Did I miss anything, Andrea? Because you've been around the whole thing for a while.
Yeah, no, I think that's a pretty good synopsis. I know as a class of middle school teacher for many, many, many years, the question that would drive me the most nuts is, what do I do next? What do I do next?
Right.
Whereas once I teach an EduProtocol, I teach the procedures. And I know you're going to talk a little bit, I'm going to ask you to talk about smart starts and how to get started. But once I teach the procedures, then they become second nature and I can focus on the content. And
right.
Even though
and
it
now
takes
kids
more
start
time
saying
at the
things
beginning,
like, I need a proper noun to finish this activity. I need a pronoun to finish this activity. I need an adjective. And all of a sudden, the academic work really comes to the front. And then really, I saved math for the last because math is really the laziest one of all. You just change the number and we go again. Yesterday was 850. Today is 851 because I had a long weekend. Ready? Let's go. And so the prep is low down. And then the kids are like, so we're just doing the same thing as yesterday? Yeah.
Yep.
But a little faster and with a little more accuracy.
Yeah.
And they're like, bro, I could totally do that. And I go, I know, let's go. So you kind of suck them into it with this kind of smart start idea. And then I want to tell you before we get into the smart start origin story, this actually happened last Friday. So I go into a class and there's a couple of sped kids in there and I'm doing a demonstration. They don't even know my name. I'm literally just showed up at the school doing this work and they don't even know my name. And so we set up for a random emoji power paragraph, which for folks that don't know what that is, it's basically 5 emoji at random. We've got a generator that's clean and safe. And then write one sentence at a time and then submit them. And then we all read them and we laugh. And it's really cool because it's like spoken word poetry kind of thing because we're writing for each other. We're not just writing for the teacher to read it tonight, if ever. And so we start up and this one kid is nonverbal. So he's got this big stack of Post-its. And we'd go to do the first one and he's doing pretty good. But you can tell sometimes with special needs kids, he's kind of keying up. Like he's worried that there's going to be an event. Anyways. We do the first one and he hands the principal a Post-it note and it says, dude with a frowny face. It says, dude with a frowny face, and then a little black cloud over his head because he accidentally submitted after the first one. So now he's starting to get like kind of jumpy, like what? Everybody else is doing this. And I said, bro, just hang on a minute, bro. Just hang on a minute. So we did the first round. He gets in the second round and I'm like, okay, don't hit submit until you write your full 3 sentences. So he does it. Then all these Post-it notes come at me. Wahoo, wahoo, read mine, read mine, read mine. And I read it and he goes, it's awesome. And he's just sending me all these notes. And then we switched to word wall and Andrea, he literally recreated the instructions panel for word wall. On a Post-it note and handed it to me. And at the top, it said, what do I do? And I said, number two. He goes right to work. Anyways, long story short, towards the end, I feel a tap about my belt line on my back. And he has put stinky. He put a Post-it note and he put stinky and he put it on my butt. And literally in 11 minutes, that's the kind of miniature community he and I had built. Right. And then he started talking. This is a guy who has Post-it notes because he doesn't talk. And it's just incredible when you, instead of panicking and saying, this kid's going to get upset, so I need to
Mhm.
slow it down for him. Instead of panicking and saying, everybody wait, I'm going to single him out
Mhm.
to do stuff because he's not like you guys. I just told him, hang on a second, we'll do it in a second. And there was this little bond, right? And so the really funny part was the guy next to him, he starts stealing post-it notes and sending me post-it notes as well. So that's how quickly school community classrooms can be developed and built. Like it was literally under 15 minutes. And I guarantee if I walk back into that classroom, he'll be ready to go.
You'll be ready to
So,
go.
yeah.
Yeah, but low stakes,
Hmm.
fun,
Yep.
and they're doing the work,
Yep.
right?
And I can leverage that. I can leverage that. So that's the whole idea of smart starting. Low stakes, fun, get to know the kid. And one of the post-it notes said, "It's a me, Zario," because he really likes, I guess, Donkey Kong. So
Okay.
now he's telling me all these things I didn't ask. I didn't ask, and here they come.
Because he felt included. And I
Yep.
think that's one of the things when people ask me about EduProtocols and why I'm such a big fan is that everyone can access them, from your struggling students to your
Hmm.
gifted students to your English learners. Everybody has an access point, and it's just the depth to which they take it is based on their ability. But
Yeah, that's
nobody's
another
left
one of those
out,
little ones
right?
is somewhere along the line when differentiation started becoming popular, people thought that everybody got a literally different
Different, correct. And
activity. And differentiation, I always like to use my cell phone as an example. Some people have larger fonts. Some people
Mhm.
have they use to voice to text, text to speech. They use all the different things. But how many phones do we have? Just basically one iPhone and one
Mhm.
Android.
Yeah, and some people have all the apps, and other people just do, phone and
Right.
email,
And they
right?
they
So
do whatever
it's
works for them, right? So
whatever works
that's
for
not
them.
like one of those things where you're in or out. It's one of those things where you're doing it your own way.
And I think it can be hard to plan lessons that are like that, right? That have those easy access points. But
Hmm.
that's the beauty of EduProtocols is
I
the
don't plan them.
framework
I
is
just
right there.
unfurl them.
Yes, there you go. All
So in the green room
right.
pre-show, you were saying that you had talked about Frere a friend, which is a
Mhm.
great one because again, Monday we Frere a friend, Tuesday we Frere a food, Thursday we Frere a
Mhm.
band, Friday it's free choice Frere whatever you want. And then the next week, when you come to school, you're like, we're going to Freyer cells or we're going to Freyer the
Mhm.
Second Amendment. And kids are like, I know what a Freyer is. So explanation time just plummets.
Yep.
So we love Freyer a friend, but then this happened at the summer camps last summer. So Padlet has a free version. And within the free version, there's a button that says, I can't draw. And the I can't draw button will create AI imagery from your words. So whatever you type, it will attempt to draw, and sometimes it's hilariously bad. So I did this to introduce all the team members this last summer. They all got into Padlet, and I said, interview somebody on your left or right, pick a partner, and then give us your name, two things you like a food or an item, like, if you like your van or you like your, rowboat, whatever it is. And then the third thing needs to be a piece of pop culture. So Hello Kitty, The Rock, Taylor Swift, anything like that. And what it does is it makes an AI image of that. And oh my gosh, the laughing. But what I'm really doing is I'm getting kids to know each other because it turns out that some kids like double doubles and some kids like pizza and some kids like toast, and all those things really, really matter in the big picture. And it's literally a 5-minute activity to get kids to know each other. Now tomorrow we come back and we interview another kid 5 minutes. But then I say everybody has to do Abraham Lincoln. Ready, go. So then it's Andrea plus tacos plus fried chicken plus Abraham Lincoln. And so in that in that methodology, we're introducing kids to Padlet as something that's really cool and creative. We're exposing them to AI because sometimes kids will say, it didn't draw what I wanted. And I said, did you try
Mm.
revising? And they say, oh, no. So maybe you want to hit that again. Maybe you want to give it another loop. And then they're like, oh, good idea. One of the things English teachers have wanted for decades is for kids to revise,
To
right?
revise, yep.
And now we
It's a
have
reason.
a tool that gives them experience. And I will literally lie to second and third graders. I'll tell them if it's not a complete sentence, it won't work at all. And they're like, okay, I'm going to be careful. But with seventh and eighth graders, I can say, do this in a compound or a complex sentence. And just like that, you're doing really high level.
And you have them paste the prompt in as well.
Yes. And then so you've got your name goes where the subject is. You do I can't draw, which is under the pink button. And then in the area below where it says write something beautiful, yeah, then I have them write a sentence there because I just did my first assessment on can you write a sentence without a lot of help.
So I also like Padlet because the students can record themselves. So
yeah, audio or video or screen
old
recording.
Tool, but the old tool's gone, and
yep, that
Padlet
old
really
tool that we won't mention, but Padlet really handles that niche very well. And then the other thing that I like on Padlet now is right where my finger's showing on the video, which is the right side of the screen, about 40% up from the bottom, there's a play button. And now when I push that, instant slideshow, which is really cool because now I hit that button and I just tell the kids, when you're finished, be ready to share. And now we're bringing in speaking and listening standards, and it's really, really cool.
And that's the other thing I really like about EduProtocols is the emphasis on speaking and sharing, right? But every student has something to talk about.
Yep.
Because they've already done the work.
Well, and you trick them, right? Because the same kid that'll say, I don't know what to say, but if you ask them something about Pikachu or Roblox, they can't shut up. You're just tricking them. Mm-hmm. And now the behavior becomes normalized. The other thing is for kids that are nonverbal or introverted is we keep the answers very quick. 4 seconds. And I'm very overt. 4 seconds. I'm going to type it. I'm going to time it. And when 4 seconds are up, you're done. And some kids will just go like this. And then I'll go, okay, good. And we go on to the next one. But what happens is over 2 or 3 or 4 days, they see how much fun people have sharing. And all of a sudden they start squeezing out a word here and there. And then pretty soon, oh my gosh, you can't get them to stop. So it's about creating that safe space. I don't have them go to the front of the room.
No,
that one's for me. It takes too long. It's 30 seconds a kid.
I agree. Yeah.
If it's 30 seconds each way, I'm going to make an algorithm. I know you love the math. 30 seconds each way, 10 seconds to present. Yeah. That's a minute a kid. Half an hour? Oh my gosh. No wonder they're off task. So mine is like, we're going left to right. A boom, a boom, a boom, boom. Good. Boom, boom. And within a minute and a half, it's done. I had one girl down in where was that? In San Juan Capistrano. She sang hers, which was very interesting because when she talked, she had a really big lisp, but when she didn't sang it, she did not.
Oh, interesting.
And the whole class was like, I didn't know you could sing. And that right there made her week. That right there made her week.
Yeah, it's giving students safe spaces.
Yep.
And preparing them.
Amazingly enough, they will emerge when you create a safe space, right? It's almost like you could take a rock and throw it into the ocean, but you add some salt water and some sun and some plankton, and pretty soon that rock is coral and it's covered with crabs, and it's a very similar process.
So you've told us about random emoji power paragraph, which is also one of my go-tos when I go to visit ELA classes to get teachers started. And Frayer, which I enjoy. And what's another easy way, an easy protocol for teachers that are just dipping their toes in to start with?
So Frayer and thin slides are no brainers. Another one that's super, super easy. A lot of people say, what should I do first? And another one that's really easy, Andrea, at some schools, back to school night comes pretty fast. It's
Mm-hmm.
like sixth day of school. So I'll make a quiz about me, favorite foods, favorite bands, all that kind of stuff. I'll have the kids play it, and then I'm very purposeful about sharing the data. And then for back to school night, we play that game on about me, and I tell the parents right now, here's what's going to happen. If the kids get a higher score than you, they're getting a free pass to something. And now it's competitive, right? But what I'm also showing is this is exactly the way your kids are going to learn Latin roots. This is how they're going to learn their times tables. It's super fun. It's super engaging. It's a low prep for me. And I know how everybody did right away.
Right away.
So that's a really solid one. Fast and Curious is basically the idea of you take Kahoot, you take Blue you take any of those popular games, and you basically play a 3-minute game, look at the data, coach the kids, and put them right back into the game. And again, there's another thing we're talking about in the green room. I see so many teachers that think, I'm going to welcome the kids. I'm going to shake their hands. I'm going to shake their hands. Then I'm going to make my morning announcement. And everybody loves it. And it takes 5 minutes. And shaking hands took 3 minutes. Okay. And then we'll do our bell ringer. So we're already 8 minutes into the room. Now the bell ringer takes 8, 10, 12 minutes. I'm taking roll during the bell ringer because it needs to be quiet so they can work. Andrea, that's easily 15 minutes. Now I'm going to do some math for you here real quick. Ready? And then I want you to answer this question while I'm doing this. How many hours a year does an average teacher have per subject?
180 times less than an hour,
Right,
right?
right. So
So,
dig this. If you do 15 minutes a day times 180 days divided by 60 minutes, that is 45 hours a year gone out of 180. And what has been the educational impact? Now, let people see what that looks like in my class. When they come in, I'm doing this. The link is up. The link is up. Get in there. You got 40 seconds. The link is up. Now they're playing. Now they're playing. And I'm walking around. Andrea, what's up? Check out your hair. I haven't seen that. What's this blue stripe? Okay, very nice. Because I'm not burdened with making them work. They're excited to
we're
work.
excited to
So
show
now I'm moving around the room. I call it TWA teaching, teach while walking around. Kim calls it grade while walking around. But I'm instead of standing at the door greeting them, I'm greeting them at their work table. Okay. And I can do that in 7 minutes a day instead of
you.
15 minutes a day. I just picked up 25 hours a year, but I'm not rushing because the first game is 3 minutes. Um, we look at the scores real quick. I go over the top 4 or 5. I don't have to go over all of them, and we're right back in the game. And now I'm hanging out with anybody I missed the first round. So that one is just so basic. Another great, great, great one is Sketch and Tell, which
Mm-hmm.
Marlena originally created, and it's fantastic. But then this guy did this thing, Dominic Helmstetter. He added 9 circles to it, or 6 circles, or 3 or 5. And imagine I do this a lot when I'm doing this with kids I haven't met before. I did this with first graders last week. Okay, fold your paper in half, hamburger, unfold it, and kids yell, like a book. Yeah, like a book. Okay. And then I write sketch at the top and tell at the top. I say, write 4 circles right here. And then I go, what do you need to have cereal? And there's a pause. And one kid yells, a bowl. And I go, okay, what kind of bowl? I'm going to give you a little time to scribble out the kind of bowl you like. And guess what? There are square bowls. Yes. Does it metal? Is it plastic? Is it a Spider-Man bowl? Then I go, what's the next thing we get? And another kid will yell, oh, we need a spoon. Okay, plastic, metal. There's always a kid that yells, spork. Okay, if you want to eat cereal with a spork, go get them.
What?
Right? Not a problem. Spork it up. And then we just walk through all the things you need for cereal. Now, this is the community part.
Mm-hmm.
I'm visiting a classroom. One kid, I go, what's your cereal? And he goes, oh, nay, O's. And I'm like, the whole class is like, yeah. I go, tell me more. And he goes, well, my name's Oh Nay. And I thought that would be a good name for a cereal. And I'm like, But see what's happening. I'm signaling to the kids, creativity is cool. Solving problems, cool.
Yep.
He's still on track. He made a
Yep.
whole O's cereal box instead of, One, I'm going to need you to just zip it and stop trying to look cool to your friends. It was, dude, that's awesome. And then we can flip the paper and then we do this 4 circles. Your perfect shoe. What's it got? And they're like, what do you mean? And I go, what color? What style? What are the laces like? What's the tread like? What's the brand? Let's go. Let's go. So I'm getting to know the kids, but then next week, guess what I can do? 4 types of triangles, go. 4 types of polygons, go. 4 ways to do an equation, go. 4 landforms, and you just slide the kids right into the work, and they don't even realize what was going on. It's really cool.
I think that's great. It's so much more fun when students are actively engaged. But
well,
like you
and
said, it's less work.
there was a few years ago, there was this gamification movement, and we teachers thought that I needed to build all these scoreboards and all of these systems and tickets. And I'm like, no. The game is this. Who wrote the funniest paragraph? Go. That's the whole game.
Yeah.
And so we don't need to do all these overt things.
Yeah. And I think part of the key nowadays is really to shift the burden of work from the teacher to the students. Having, there's the saying that whoever's doing the work is doing the learning.
Yep.
And I see a lot of teachers that I feel like they're working way
Every
too hard.
teacher I've seen go to the average keynote walks out going, whoever's doing the work is doing the learning. We need to work less than the kids do. And I'm like, yeah, you keep doing that, but then
you go back and
if you don't know how to make the move, then you're stuck.
And that's really where you and Marlena came in with these really tight, actionable strategies.
We're stating we're very similar to Kagan. Very similar to Kagan, or maybe complementary is a better way to put it. But Kagan doesn't handle tech at all. Kagan is paper, pen, or bust. Tell me I'm wrong. I've read the Kagan book. No, I didn't. I got in the first 20 pages. I was like, bro, I'm not reading this. It's meaty. Yeah. So the second thing we're similar but different is our stuff's quick and easy. I can do this for U.S. government. I can also do this for art history. Yes, let's go. So the first thing is tech. We're comfy with thin slides. We're on Freyers. We're comfy with Padlet, Google Slides. The second thing is Kagan doesn't give you any kind of sense of timing.
Oh, I didn't realize that, but you're right.
Think about it. They don't ever say this double bubble word map should take 7 minutes.
That's true.
This Venn diagram should take 4 minutes. And then the third thing they don't give you is how do you give the feedback? So those are 3 things where we're in common and different. We're very complementary to PBL, like the Buck Institute stuff. But Buck Institute goes straight towards what's a giant project. And that's scary to a lot of folks because not everybody wants to do a fish farm. Some people just want to get through the spelling words. And so there's, with the PBL stuff, there's this gap between my kids can't do times tables, but I want them to design a BMX track. That is a bad recipe right there. You got to be able to keep doing both things. So, and then Marzano's research and Hattie's research is spectacular, but they're not prescriptive. So I see school after school do this. Let's do the Marzano of the month. Nothing wrong with that, but it's just comparing. And Andrea, in an average cyber sandwich, you'll do 5 or 6 Marzano strategies in a singular activity. And so people will do the Marzano of the month and then just not do that for the rest of the year. And that doesn't lead to, I think, part of the classroom community that's really important is, do the kids feel like they're progressing? And one of the neat things about EduProtocols is for the first time in their career, some kids are actually getting better. And it turns out that when that happens, they believe you're a good teacher. I know, it's crazy. They start thinking, wow, this guy's really good. And I'm like, no. I've just designed things that are allowing you to be your best you. I'm not any better or worse than your regular teacher.
Well, and that's the thing. It's designing those experiences that give students the space but structure to grow.
Yeah.
I'm working with a middle school ELA teacher, and she was kind of frustrated that students weren't doing the reading, the silent reading they were supposed to be doing, and weren't getting much out of
They
it.
haven't been doing that since the 70s.
Well, exactly.
I'm your testimonial.
Well, so she started doing book akucha, and she
Uh-huh.
would just ask them one question about the book, and
Yeah.
it's just a random question as simple as, describe the setting.
Ready
Um,
to go.
but she's ramped it up, and the amount of writing these kids are doing. Um, I was going to pull up the example she just emailed me, and I can't remember what it was now. But the the first few reps on she did in 8 parts, but she reworked it to be 8 parts of a story.
Okay.
And she started with a silly little cartoon video clip,
Yep.
right? The
Yep.
kids had to map the story. And at first, it was kind of moderate production, but now they're filling up their Google slide, and it's jam packed, and the text is shrinking because of all the
Yeah.
details.
Font size is going down because they're like, I'm out of room.
I'm out
That's
of
something
room.
you hear that yelled a lot in protocols.
Mhm.
I'm out of room. And that is a really
That's a
that is
good
a
problem
super
to
good.
have. Yeah.
Yeah.
But she's so excited about the amount of production that the kids are
Yeah.
doing. And
Well, and that
she's
goes
just
back to that's
creating
a
those
really nice full
conditions.
circle why Smart Start's so critical because we have to train them to be workers. They are not
Mhm.
coming to us as a worker.
No, it's very
So, but you can't walk in the first day and say, I'm going to train you to be workers, or they're like, bro, I'm out.
true.
That doesn't work. So you got to find that in between spot there, right? Of
Yes.
how do I get them to be workers, but yet not say to them, I'm going to train you to be workers.
I think you've called it stealth learning.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
Or
and
Kim calls it putting the cheese on the broccoli.
I love that metaphor though, because we are, we're making learning fun, making school fun for students.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
school should be fun
it
for
should be
students.
fun,
Like that's
you know,
number one.
and the skills that we're teaching, do I really care if they can memorize all 50 states and the exact locations of every capital and how to
The
spell all the
skill that I
names?
can memorize anything I want to is the bigger thing.
Yeah, well, I've got Google for that, right?
Yeah,
But
that's what I tell
do I
people.
know how to critically think?
Back in the 70s, there was always that one kid that's like, I memorized all the capitals. And
That's right.
nowadays, I'm like, bro, I got this phone right here.
But I've worked with a lot of teachers, and that's still an assignment.
Yeah.
That's still a time test. And why? Yes, you should know where the states are, and you should
Yeah. But
do
see, now
calculus
that could
and
be
all
a
that.
word wall that you play
But
every day for 4 minutes
exactly
instead of this long 1 hour lesson. It's just a
correct.
daily Mario Kart. And we just rep that puppy. And then that saves all my brain power of how do I get these kids to memorize? They're going to just do it.
They're going to do it because it's fun,
Yeah.
and they are competitive. I've been doing a lot of trainings on promoting a growth mindset, and EduProtocols, especially Fast and
Yeah.
Curious, really helps with that because students are competing against themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They're trying to learn their
Yeah.
vocabulary words
And that's a
in
good
context.
clarification for your listeners. We are tracking the class average, right? We're tracking the
Mhm.
class average, but I rarely say stuff like, Andrea came in first again.
Correct.
I
Yep.
go straight in BlueKit and GimKit and WordWall. I go straight to what's the class average and what are most of us missing. And I think there's a nonverbal there of I'm not giving too much to the fast kids.
Mm-hmm.
They can see their score on their
They
computer. They
know.
don't
They
need
all know.
they all know. And I'm not giving too much love to the fast kids in a way that it creates awkwardness for the kids that are
Mm-hmm.
struggling. And
Yep.
I have a tweet from Michelle Lake, and she literally says in the tweet, I told my kids they were going to get wiped out on this one. But I also told them in 20 minutes they would be ready. And guess what? In 20 minutes, they were ready.
Yeah.
That is what leaders do, right? Leaders challenge us, and
Mm-hmm.
leaders help us understand it as a safe space. Now I'm going to go all the way back in the Wayback Machine. The way that I got started on this, because it's really weird on a couple of levels, Andrea. Smart Start's becoming more and more popular. It's becoming a normal phrase.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I started this out of the idea that every year my sixth graders were showing up and they were pretty bad at school in general.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just by coincidence, I was going through Borders back when there was a Borders. I was going through Borders and I was looking on the shelf and there was a book that said the Oxford Dictionary of Work. No, Encyclopedia of Work.
Okay.
And I started looking through it and it really is a very fascinating book. It's the history of working. And so I was like, So I started taking little snippets and photocopying them onto like a daily little chart that we would do. Like every day there would be a little challenge. And that's not that new, right? There's teachers that make little, booklets and we're going to do this, this, this.
Yeah.
But mine wasn't like it wasn't like a crossword and then a word search and then a, fill in the blanks. Mine was like how work works. How does work work? And there's some quotes. Did you know that people were playing tennis in England in 1600? And the quote about it basically is people would rather work harder at tennis than at the thing that makes them money. And that is confusing. So I'm teaching kids all these kind of things. And I was like, wait a minute, what if I could teach them how to school? And then a second piece came in when I was working at Minarets High School because I started seeing our seniors go off to college. And here's a funny fact. The more expensive your college, the longer your boot camp. So for the average junior college, you get 2 days, 2 hours. So if you go to Fresno City College, they meet all the freshmen in the auditorium. They take them over and they go like this. That's science, that's English, that's math. They take them to the bookstore and then they take them to the cafeteria and they're like, hey, if you want to buy lunch, it's only $3. And so there's your tour. If you go to Fresno State, they have dog days. It's actually an overnight. You get partnered up with three other people. You stay in the dorms. You go to the bowling alley. You meet 8 or 10 professors. You get up, you go to the dining hall for breakfast. It's social. There's t-shirts. It's exciting. If you go to UCLA, it's now a 4-day experience.
Mm-hmm.
See the pattern? And what I realized is, why are they doing all this extra work? Because I mean, this is college. They could say, you're in college now. Here's the handbook, read it. And what I realized is it's super duper awkward to have half your freshman class transfer out.
Yeah, you want to keep them
at Christmas. So what they're doing is they're building culture. They are building culture because they want to ensure that people stick around. And I mean, it was like a bomb went off in my mind. I was like, oh my gosh, we've got kids for 180 days. And I'm going to tell a teacher joke here. There's a lot of Finding Nemo going on those last 5 days. Okay. What if we could take some time to get things right so that the whole year was smooth? And that's a quote that I've been sharing with people from the Navy SEALs. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. So the irony here is people think that if they spend 3 or 4 days investing in their kids, that they will get behind, that they got to get into the content, right? That's what I hear. I got to get into the content. Yeah, but
there's so much to cover. I've got
to cover this. But then those same people I will see in the lunchroom in October saying, I went too fast. We got to restart.
They're lost.
Tell me I'm wrong. I lost them. Well, there you go. Right there.
Or blame the kids because they can't keep up.
Right.
Right.
So I'm saying, what if we spend the first 3 or 4 days getting to know the kids and not with, I look at, they just bubble out of me. Almost everybody knows what an All About Me poster is, right? We've seen that. And almost every kid's done it. And every kid knows it's one and done, no grade. Yep. So we just moved that to what we call a thick slide about you. Okay. And now I'm training you for what we're going to do the rest of the year. And I say, tomorrow we're going to do another thick slide Today was about you. That was a layup. Everybody got an A. Good job. I graded it in real time. They're feeling good. You just started smiling. You're like, yeah, let's go. Tomorrow, be ready to do another thick slide. I will reveal your choice in the morning. Eighth graders they can't wait for the morning. So they come in, what's a thick slide? What's a thick slide? Now I'm building in the language, right? And I go like this. Today's thick slide is worst sports team ever. And they're like, ah. And then one kid says, I don't like sports. And I go, good. Why do you hate sports? Thick slide. And now we're on rep 2, right? And then I will reveal the next thick slide tomorrow. And that's going to be your least favorite band, but we can't pick on Nickelback anymore because it's getting awkward. And then there we go. And just like that, I've got that class ready to do really high level stuff. I've had a very chill first week of school. Everybody basically has an A. And while I was supposed to be grading stuff after class, what was I actually doing? Prepping the next 2 weeks, because now I got to read on the kids. And so that's the idea. And here's the cool part. I didn't waste any time getting to know the kids.
Yep.
The getting to know the kids was built in. So that slow is smooth, smooth is fast, because I guarantee you by the 4th week of school, my kids will pass your kids.
Well, and it's not only you getting to know the kids, but it's them getting to know each other as well.
That too, because
huge.
especially in the upper grades, we have these kids that sit in these little clusters. Like,
Yep.
I'm an Aggie and I'm a goth and I'm a cheerleader. I'm going to be just busting those up. You like Pikachu? I like Pikachu. You like Lord of the Rings? I like Lord of the Rings. You hate cheese? I hate cheese. So I'm getting those kids to break up all those little clicky things by doing these quick share outs. And now you've got these affinity groups, because like Minecraft is the binder of all human children, right? Or Xbox. And so once they find out that this kid has 20,000 followers on their YouTube account, then they become cool. And that's a kid who might have been quiet all year.
Mm-hmm. And that's the key really to those first few weeks.
Yeah.
Even the first days, you're setting the tone.
Some teachers will say, I can't spend time on it because I got to get into the content. Yeah. And I would say,
no,
I don't know how you could not do this.
Yeah. When a few years ago, I had to long-term sub in a virtual class before the teacher was hired. And as a coach, I moved out of my coaching role to do this long-term subbing. I found out on Friday at 4 p.m. as I was on the way to the mountains to camp, where I knew I had no cell service. And I'm like, what the heck am I going to do with these 5th graders? Mm-hmm. So in my mind, I planned out a series of EduProtocols. So I got home Sunday night at like 10 p.m. I grabbed a couple templates and off we went. And I repeated the same protocols
ding, ding, ding.
all week long. The prep was
just have a different article planned.
Yeah, it was so much fun. And the first few times as we popped around the slides for everyone to share, there were a few people that didn't talk, but by the end of the week, they were all writing complete paragraphs and they were all sharing. Yep. Now the cameras were off, but they were still all sharing.
It's still something.
And not all the teachers could say that. They were struggling with getting kids to participate. Mm-hmm. So I'm a testament. It really does work. EduProtocols, it's a mindset. And that's what I tell people. You have to shift. You have to let go of some control.
Well, be scientific. If you keep trying to do the thing that is currently not working, what will be the necessary outcome? So yeah, exactly. That's where you've got to let yourself flow a little bit and say, no, we're going to be fine. We're going to do this.
But it's all in the planning, right? The setup, mm-hmm. Creating those circumstances and conditions for students to shine.
And this is the best part. I think probably the biggest thing I've learned in my teacher journey is I am entirely uncomfortable with knowing that I don't know exactly where we're going to end up.
Yeah.
And that freaks people out. That freaks them out.
Yeah. But I think with EduProtocols, you do know where you're heading. You just don't.
Well, I know where I'm going holistically. So, for example, I know they'll be able to do a presentation. They'll be able to do an Iron Chef. They'll be able to answer 50 questions. But what I don't know exactly is exactly how many or exactly how fast, or there's variables there. And I think this is a great place to probably wrap up. Okay. So my COVID story, I go back to the classroom to teach sixth grade during COVID. It is less than ideal situation. It is a second year of a school existing, which if you've
Mhm.
never opened a school before, schools,
Yep.
modern schools, when you open a new school, they're full of people who are escaping regular school. They've got a bad attitude, they got bad grades, they've had a bad experience, and they're escaping. So I didn't even get my kids organically to myself until uh, November 1st, because up until then, we had all been remote. We reshuffled the deck. I was doing 6, 7, 8 language arts and history. We stopped. I was sixth grade self contained. Fine, I'm rolling with the punches. But around February, I was doing an Iron Chef with my students. And for listeners that don't know what an Iron Chef is, it's basically a jigsaw, but on slides. And I told the class, get into 5-member teams, ready, go. When they got into their teams, all right, good job, nice and fast. And I said, now we're going to do today's Iron Chef. We'll be on NASA. And so your subjects are going to be 5 important dates, 5 important people, five tragedies or failures, and then 5 legacy items, like how has NASA benefited us? And I go, okay, Iron Chef, you got 10 minutes, ready, go. And they looked down at their Chromebookies and they refreshed and they looked at me and they looked down at their Chromebookies and they looked at me and I go, what are you guys doing? And they go, Crippo, you didn't send us the slides, man. And I said, well, your mom doesn't work here. So make your own slides, bro. And they went right to work. And that's with about 3 months of time.
Mhm.
Imagine sixth graders who
Yeah.
have a 23rd percentile ELA score in September just going, oh yeah, we'll make our own templates. We're good. What's the humanity karma payoff on helping kids to function that way? And I see some things as binary. How about this for binary, Andrea? You are never going to have that outcome in a traditional classroom. Never. It's not going to happen. You are not going to be able to spontaneously tell kids to form into groups, make their own graphic organizers, and then use the internet to properly answer the questions. That is never going to happen in a be quiet and listen class, in a copy what I'm saying on the boards class, in a we do a ton of worksheets, but I don't correct them class. It's impossible. You know, you can't get from here to there. And the bad part for teachers is that's going to result in a lot of resentment from kids
Mhm.
because they are resenting you wasting their time. They are very aware that you're wasting their time and they're going to resent it. And
I think
I
it's
think that's
very true. We were doing some listening sessions in our district, and one of the questions is what do you wish teachers would keep doing, or what would the adults in your school keep
right.
doing? What would do you wish they would stop doing? And one of the little boys, he said, this was a middle school boy, I want more time and I want my teacher to slow down, because just when I think I'm getting, you know, interested and catching on
Yes.
to the content,
New thing.
we're on to something new. And EduProtocols really help keep kids in the content and give them more time to grapple with the content and create
Mhm.
their own meaning, right?
And that's the beauty of the reps. And I see this a lot in math. I don't know if you've ever articulated this, but there's a bell curve called Moore's Law of Diffusion. And basically, it's
Mm-hmm.
how people adopt ideas over time. So think about this. The first time you saw a Tesla, you were like, that's weird. Where will I even plug it in? What if I run out of gas? Like, who would even want that? And now, 4 years later, everybody's like, that looks good. I think I want that. I know where I'm going to plug it in. So what happens in math a lot is we feel this clock in our head, a biological clock of sorts. And as soon as enough kids sort of have long division, boom, we're out of there.
Remove it on, yeah.
And you've got this whole group of 1/3 of the kids that are like just almost getting it. oh, I'm
Mhm.
almost there. And then so what we don't look at is the macro, which is I almost got fractions and we left. I almost got decimals and we left. I almost got quadratics and we left. I never get to settle. And we don't have that problem in English because we'll do Latin roots for the whole year and be fine with it. We'll read novel after novel and be fine with it.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that's what protocols brings to the party is the ability to languish without falling behind.
Mhm. I agree. So, Jon, can you tell folks where they can find you?
Oh, you could just Google Jon Corippo. That's the fastest way. I've got a pretty good Google lineup,
You do.
but I'm really most active now on Facebook. We have a Facebook group that I know you're in, Andrea. There's
Mhm.
20,000 teachers in there, and that's that's the best thing I've ever seen in education right now. So, EduProtocols community. You can also email me, jcorippo at gmail. If you're not cool with Facebook, you could just email me directly and save all the trouble. I'm not on Twitter very much, which is weird because I got up to like 32,000 followers. But it's just that guy bought it and he kind of broke everything. So love that on Facebook. But then also any of the protocols we mentioned, thin slides, thick slides, fast and curious, we've gotten to a point now where you can just Google it and just
Mhm.
you can leave me out. Like if you're interested but you don't like my style, just type in Edu Protocol thin slides, and now there's like in some cases dozens
Dozens of videos. Yeah.
of videos and blog posts from people who, and I love this part, as we're growing we are not losing our path. And for example, there was a time when Maria Montessori in Italy was a big deal,
Mhm.
and when they brought Montessori to the United States, they're not really doing Montessori anymore. It's just Montessori named because the teachers in the U.S. decided it was way too much work. And I'm going to get super geeky right now. Do you know what
Mhm.
Gestalt theory is, Andrea?
No.
Gestalt is where you can take a bunch of disparate things and use those to create a new thing. For example, snowmobile, handlebars from a bike, snow skis, tracks from a tank, motor from an outboard engine, and a seat from a motorcycle. When you put all those things together, you've created
Yeah.
a new thing. And Gestalt was, you can Google that too, but Maria's original thing was Gestalt theory, which is if you know your vowels and consonants and you know your CVCs and you know your blends and you know all these things, that reading will naturally happen because all those pieces have come together to make a new, more powerful thing. In math, we say the sum is greater than its parts, right?
Mhm.
So, but what happened with Montessori was they decided that it meant you can go as fast as you want in the workbook. And you can see that's
Mhm.
not exactly the same thing at
But
all.
no, not at all. So I just want to thank you, Jon, for coming on with me today and sharing. You know, I even wore my EduProtocols t-shirt in your honor
Right
today.
on.
Um, I encourage our listeners to look up eduprotocols.com. There's a lot of events, free events online, and a lot of support, a lot of teacher sharing. It's funny, I'm not a big sharer on social media in terms of what I'm doing. So I guess this podcast is
This
my
is your
way to
version.
kind of share.
Yep.
Uh,
Well, and then November 23rd, we've got Edu Protocols Worldwide 6 coming up. And that is a totally free event. So if you're curious at all about all of our lingo that Andrea and I were dropping, just you can just pop in there and enjoy that.
and you've
And
blossomed into a series of books. You know, there's a
yes,
social
well, we're up
studies,
to I think
um,
7, and we got 2 or 3 on the way.
science focused, social studies focused, ELA focused, primary focused, but the core is all the same. It's giving students agency and creating the conditions
Right,
for them to be successful.
right. The plan is still the same, which is
Mhm.
engaging the human child where they're at.
Absolutely. So thank you for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed this our conversation with Jon Corippo, one of the masterminds behind EduProtocols. And I just want to remind everyone to keep building that classroom community. It takes intentionality, and small actions can make a big difference with your students. Until next time.